Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of my N-gauge shunting layout in a wine box. So this is where we got to so far. I've actually glued the track sections together because they're never going to be taken up, and I can close the gaps slightly on the roadbed. Now as you can see, I've put some foam board in, and that's just to lower the profile of the track. Because one complaint about Kato is that a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't look very realistic. Okay, well there's ways that you can improve that, and that's what I'm aiming to try and do. But because of my hate of wiring points and things like that, Kato is the obvious go-to for me because it's so easy with these pre-wired points. So my plan is to use these little fellas here, which are, let's wait for that to focus hopefully. They're DC power connectors, so I'm going to drill a hole in the end there, pop that in the layout just in that position there, and then the male end will just feed in from that side as and when I join the fiddle yard on, and all that will be hidden behind a building. And I think ultimately what I'll do, I'll fill the gap here where it's different in height with a bit of Daz clay, and I've bought some Kato ballast, which I shall then use at the top to feather the edges to make it look less toy-like, I suppose. However, the first thing I'm going to do, although I said I wasn't really interested in trying to work out any uncoupling method on this, I've become slightly obsessed with these little rare earth magnets. So I'm going to experiment with a system that I've used before, but in the past I've used the Pico little blades that go on the bottom of the coupling. I might actually use these tiny little, they're really small, these, I don't know whether, is that focusing? Hopefully. I shall put one of these little magnets on the bottom of the coupling, so it's repellent against a larger magnet that I will put underneath the track. So I'm going to experiment a bit with that first, so let's see how that goes. Okay, so what I've done, I've glued this tiny rare earth magnet to the bottom of this Pico wagon. So it's a standard gravity type coupler. If you use a sprung type, I don't think it would be as effective, so that will just drop back into position. But that's about, I would estimate, about 2.5mm diameter. So I've glued that on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue another magnet underneath the hollow roadbed of the Kato track. So this actually works, if I can hold this up so you can see it. Let's just get it. Oh, it's the trouble with these magnets, so just fling off and then stick to anything that's metal, but of course you can find them again at least afterwards. So if I just do that, you can see as it passes over the magnet, the coupling lifts. So this is the technique that I'm going to use to automatically uncouple it. Now obviously that's all well and good, but you've got to be able to, let's move that around, shunt far enough back so that you can travel back over the coupling at enough speed that there's enough inertia in the rake for it to remain coupled up. So it's super critical where I put that magnet in relation to the length of that siding, and I haven't got a lot of room to play with, as you can see. So I think I'm almost playing with essentially one wagon, and if I'm lucky maybe a brake van, but I think it might be just one wagon. So I'm going to experiment with that and work out where best to place these magnets on here, and then I'll glue them to the underside of the track. Right, one further modification I've needed to make with this is to move the magnet a bit further back on the coupling, because it was binding when it was lifting. The magnet, being right level with the edge of the coupling, was binding on the coupling that was coupled up to it, so it wasn't lifting and separating. So basically I've moved it back. Now that, in order to do that, that's required me to file a little bit off the cup that the coupling lives in. So you can see what I've done there. Now initially I filed it a little bit too far, and what happened was the coupling dropped too low. So I needed to make sure it was kind of level. So I had to move the magnet back again in order to make sure that that coupling sat level or parallel to the track rather than drooping down. So anyway, I've done that. So that got modified, and I've also glued the magnet to the bottom of the track. So as you can see now, that's operating correctly, and the magnets are placed there and there in relation to the siding, which hopefully will give me enough room to shunt back and pull forward at enough speed that the inertia will maybe carry the rake forward. I'm going to have to fiddle about with that, I think, and choose my motive power carefully to make sure that the coupling on whatever loco I use is going to play ball as well. So I've used the same size magnet, same diameter magnet under the track as I have on the wagons. So I experimented with larger ones, but it didn't need it. It needed just the same size. And obviously keep a note of the polarity if you're going to try this, because if you get the polarity correct, you can absolutely pinpoint the point that the coupling lifts. If you glue it the wrong way round, it will still lift, but it won't do it in line with the magnet. It would be one side or the other. So it would still work, but I took a note of the polarity with a little marker pen and made sure I glued both of them on correctly, so the polarities of the magnets on the wagons are both the same, so I could swap the wagons round and they will behave identically on either of those sidings. So I think now I can go ahead and glue the track down and start thinking about making the track look maybe a bit more realistic, and also I've got to wire the sidings up, so we'll do that next. Right, as you can see, I've made up a wiring loom now that the track is all glued. So these just unplug, and of course I've got my Kato controller and point switches there. Now, after a little running session, just to see if this is all working, an unexpected and interesting development has arisen, which might be a little bit of a problem with my uncoupling. What I forgot was that on the feeder track that I've put in here, which is the bit that's going to provide the feed to both legs of the layout, because of course there's an electrical current going across there, when I bring my wagons along here, as you can see, it's activating the magnet and uncoupling the train. So that's a bit of a problem because I've got to bring my power in here. So I'm going to just accept that that's what it's going to do, or not worry about my uncoupling and just run connected rakes backwards and forwards. But I'm not going to let this deter me. I'm going to forge ahead anyway. But I thought, yes, that's an interesting but unwelcome development. But there we go. These things happen when you're building model railways. So anyway, I've now got to put some stops. If I just move that around, I've just got to put some little plasticard buffers effectively to stop the train from running off the end here. But obviously they've got to be very thin because these tracks are going to sit inside the box when it's all closed up. So that's the next bit that I'm going to do. Okay, so now I've filled the edges of the track in with Daz clay, and once that's dry I'll go ahead and apply a bit of ballast around it, and that, hopefully by the time that's all done, that won't look like Kato track anymore. I have left this little bit. I should disguise that with a bush or something. I don't want to get any bits and pieces inside that mechanism for the points. Anyway, I think that's enough for this episode, so thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to catching you on the next episode, which will be part 3 of this N-gauge shunting layout. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, to join me for the next part. So see you soon. Cheers, bye.